let's have a look at part B now. What is the difference in the total cost of reducing emissions between a policy that demands that both firms reduce emissions by 250 tons and the cap and trade policy? Now, let's compare that. What is going to be the total cost? We have the total cost functions. These are the cost functions over here. They depend on the emission reductions that the company make. So in the case of the cap and trade policy, let's actually crop this because we'll solve it to the right. So we crop this like that and paste it over here next to what we found in our results. Now we can calculate our costs. So under the cap and trade policy, this is for part B, cap and trade, right? Let's call that CT. Now, what's going to be the total cost? We'll have the total cost from the first company, and that's equal to 1/6 times the emissions of the first company, which is 300 to the power of 2, plus the cost of the second company, which is 1/4. So that's 1/4 times the emissions done by the the reduction in emissions by the second companies, which is 200. So that's 200 to the power of 2. And that's equal to 25,000. That's equal to $25,000 in total costs, right? These are the total costs. Let me just write over here that these are our total costs. Now, what's going to be the total costs under the regular policy, right? Let's call that regular policy. Well, under the regular policy, we would have a symmetric reduction in emissions. 250 by the first company, 250 by the second company. What would be the total cost then? Well, the total cost under this case would be the following. We would have 1/6 times 250 tons reduced by the first company to the power of 2, plus the cost of the second company would be 1/4 times 250 units reduced by the second company, again to the power of 2, and that would be a cost of $26,041 if we round it. All right, what do we see? The cost of reducing emissions under the regular policy is greater than under the cap and trade, and we saw that when we explained in the explanation video that under the cap and trade, companies have the freedom to exchange permits in order to pollute more, and they will do so until the marginal cost between polluting and the price of the permit becomes equal, and that is just more cost effective because we know by definition that when the fee, or in this case the permit that they have to pay, must be equal to the marginal cost, in that case that's the optimal allocation of resources. Now, what else matters under the cap and trade? That's the last question over here. Quick theory is whether does it matter how the permits are initially distributed among the two firms? Well, we just started to answer the question. Because under the cap and trade, they are free to exchange the permits until they reach their equilibrium point where the marginal costs are equal between them. So no, whatever the distribution is, even though one company can have all the permits, there is room for negotiation because it's possible to sell the permit, get money from it, as long as that is better than the cost incurring for reducing pollution. And the same logic goes for the other party. This is, I go into this more into depth in an explanation video. You might want to watch that. But for this question, we are done.